White people, let's talk about it. Let's talk about our violence, white violence. No more deflecting, no more blaming everything on everybody else. Let's confront ourselves. White people in America, our history is so extremely violent. And instead of confronting that, we continue to blame other people.
You know, it's always good when a white man says that the problem with this country is white men.
The biggest threat to America is white men that look like you, me, you, all these cops here, and something.
I love it.
Dear white people, I need you to shut the fuck up and listen for a minute because I am exhausted by how many conversations around race never actually become conversations. They become interruptions, objections. They become a courtroom where so many of you immediately begin defending yourselves against an accusation I haven't even made yet. And by the time you finish proving to yourself that you're one of the good ones, you've completely missed what black people were trying to tell you in the first place. One of the things that continues to frustrate me is how difficult it seems to be for people to distinguish between talking about individuals and talking even patient.
Man, I tell you what, they owe us an apology. They try to ban us. They try to bully us. They try to censor us. They try to keep us from our families. They say, you can't fly. You can't shop. They try to make us to be these evil people because we didn't want to get vaccinated.
Dear white people, what have we done to you? Don't give me no BS story talking about y'all didn't do nothing. I'm not that type of person because the last time I checked, you sat there and built an entire country off of our backs. A country that was ours before it was ever yours. You sat over here and came and stole our land. You talking about the ancestors of mine that sat there and went through the slavery times. The ones that you would use as a house slave. Sit there and have them nourish and sucking from my bosom. At the same token, I was beat. I was spit on.
White folks are sending out warnings to each other to prepare for something worse which is coming. I mean, imagine making a decision based on racism, based on hatred, or even stereotypes, and then having to live with the consequences that comes. Now, that's exactly where this conversation gets interesting. Because when people make political choices based on who they hate, who they fear, or simply who they don't want to excel in life, or simply because they don't want someone to, like somebody of a certain race or background to be in power, like they don't want black people to be in power or to advise them, those choices can have consequences far beyond election day. You see, some people clearly warned about what they believed could happen, but they were ignored because of who they were. Like, okay, you are black people, you cannot advise us. And now here they are. Okay, we are going to hear what people are saying, the accusations, the warnings, the reactions, and most importantly, how racism, how hatred, how stereotypes can become part of this conversation. Anyway, let's get into it. If this is your first time, please subscribe and like if you get any value. Let's watch, and I'll come later for more commentaries right at the end.
White people, let's talk about it. Let's talk about our violence, white violence. No more deflecting, no more blaming everything on everybody else. Let's confront ourselves. White people in America, our history is so extremely violent. And instead of confronting that, we continue to blame other people for the issues and the problems in this country, instead of just taking ownership of our part to play in everything, which is a huge part. Can we stop scapegoating other groups of people, please, and just look at ourselves? White people, it's time to talk about it. Like, it's long past time. Getting rid of other groups of people in this country is not going to make this country better. It's not going to make your life better. It's not going to make you better. I think white people are so scared to talk about race and to talk about white violence and white supremacy because they don't want to connect themselves to it. We don't want to feel like we're a part of the problem. But unless you're acknowledging the reality of how the US, this country, runs, you are a part of the problem. I truly believe in my heart, in my soul, that if you're born a white person in this country or on this planet, but I'll just speak about this country, part of that journey is to dismantle systems that have been built to oppress other people. The hard work of life is to confront yourself. How do I benefit from the way that things are? And how does my benefiting from those things harm other people? And instead of walking around with, 1,000-pound bag of shame on your back, consider it your responsibility to do that work. Consider it an opportunity that you are in the best possible position to make this world a better place by not accepting racist and prejudiced and oppressive systems for what they are and trying to contribute to changing them. Use the privilege that you have for good. I don't think that anybody can ever really love themselves without being honest about themselves, without being honest with themselves. And that work is painful and hard, but it's so worth it. White people, you don't have to consciously think that you're better than other people in order to contribute to harm against them. All it takes to contribute to harm is to stay silent and disengaged. White people, can we finally get this shit right? Can we finally take accountability? Can we finally look ourselves in the mirror and decide that this isn't good enough? We're not doing a good enough job. You aren't losing because somebody else is safe and cared for. You aren't losing because somebody different than you exists. White people, let's talk about it. Let's start having these conversations with ourselves and with each other. It's time.
With a business, it's good to expect the best and prepare for the worst. With a child, if you also do that, you can start imagining all kinds of potential problems that are not actually happening. Well, first off, you made a statement that I don't agree with. It's good to expect the best and prepare for the worst. I prepare for the best. I never prepare for the worst. I prepare for the best. I also think about contingency plans in case something doesn't go correct or a worst case scenario hands out. But I am preparing for the best. I am expecting the best, but then I release an attachment to the outcome. And then I also make sure I set up a safety net in case there's a worst case scenario. But I release my attachment to an outcome. So it's not quite exactly as you described.
Why do white people pay so much attention to black people if they don't like them? You would think if you didn't like something, why would you be paying attention to it? I don't pay attention to things I don't like.
What's the answer?
The answer is the liar knows what lie he told. You see what I'm saying? So even if I made it deceitful and I made you think that the answer is over here, but the answer is really over here, I'm still going to be looking over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer. Black people have lost their identity, but our oppressors have not lost our identity. That's just why they chopped those noses off of the Pharaoh and the Sphinx in Egypt in the first place, is because without this nose, we can tell you this is whoever it is. But with that nigga nose, it can only be niggas. Why would somebody vandalize a whole face and only vandalize one part? Nobody wanted to knock an eye off or take an ear off or no chins missing. No, just the nose.
What most people fail to do is prepare for their future self. Let me give you an example. I just went to the grocery store and bought all my proteins, ground turkey, ground chicken, and rice. Am I out of those in my kitchen? No. Am I going to be out of those in my kitchen within the next few days? Yes. I'm not waiting until my fridge is empty, until my pantry is empty, to then be left with no options and scrambling to get to the grocery store when I have no time during a busy work week. Today's Tuesday, technically my Sunday. I know that I have a busy work week ahead of me, so I'm taking the time that I have right now and setting my future self up for success and buying those items so I have them stocked in my fridge and ready to go for the times that I am busy. This translates into all aspects of life with time management skills. Look at your work week ahead and time block the gym around your work, around activities, so you don't have to go scrambling and trying to find the time to get to the gym or to get to the grocery store because you already have it scheduled and planned out. Learning useful time management skills will get you a long way in your fitness journey. If you're not always thinking of your future self, you are failing her or him.
When me and a white person is walking the same way and they keep walking straight towards me because they expect me to move out the way, You're in for a rude awakening, bitch. Cause I'm gonna bump into you hard as fuck. I'm gonna elbow check the shit out of you. Now what you gonna do? I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
Imagine being so obsessed with race that even walking down the sidewalk becomes a war. Most white people aren't expecting you to move because you're black. They are just walking. You are the one turning a sidewalk into a race battle. That is not your ancestors' wildest dreams. Your ancestors dreamed you would be educated, free, and able to walk with dignity. They fought so you could walk freely, not so you could elbow check strangers to make a point. Bumping into people on purpose isn't activism. It's weird, racist, and embarrassing. Nobody is thinking about you that deeply. Most people are just walking. Grow up.
Man, I tell you what, they owe us an apology. They try to ban us. They try to bully us. They try to censor us. They try to keep us from our families. They say you can't fly, you can't shop. They try to make us to be these evil people because we didn't want to get vaccinated, and now we end up being right. They owe us an apology, but they're not going to give it to us. So you know what? Learn your lesson. And next time the test comes, don't fail it. Next time the propaganda comes from the false prophet media, don't fail for it. Stand tall, stand on business, no matter the cost. A lot of people who claim to be believers failed the test. I told y'all that when I seen Fauci on that false prophet media platform, I said, something don't feel right. I pray about it. Something ain't sitting right in my spirit. Look at how they did Dr. Emmanuel. Look at how they attacked us. Look at, man, they censored me on social media. They sent me a notification. We are restricting your page. People lost their YouTubes. People lost their jobs. They kicked people out of the military that were faithfully serving, that loved to serve. And they came to that crossroad and they say, I'd rather get out than bow down. Man, let me tell you something. Some of y'all in this last season, especially you conservatives, you got too arrogant and you're about to fail the test. Just know that the pen can change hands soon. Just know that there's something coming that a lot of people in the church are not ready for. That was a test for the beast system. That was a test for what's to come. The Bible says you won't be able to buy or sell without the mark. I've been telling y'all since 2014. God told me, if you build it in this season, I'm gonna bless it. We are living out a modern day Bible story, and God has given us an opportunity. He's given a chance, right? He's saying, build it now. The Bible says, as in the days of Noah, just like in the days of Noah, he's given us all the warnings, and it's documented. You could go back and look at the warnings. You could go back and look at the videos, and I'm telling you, there's something that's coming. Look at what's going on in Spain. Look at what's going on with the UK. Look at what's going on here in America, in New York, in Dearborn, Michigan. Hey, listen, I don't be trying to claim to be some deep type of prophet, but I pray to God about everything. And when the Holy Spirit tell me something ain't right with that, I'm gonna just go with that feeling. Even if and that's the thing, look, everybody was against us. And what I've been telling y'all for years, broad is the way that leads to destruction. Narrow is the way that leads to eternal life. Think about that. Broad is the way that leads to destruction. Anytime you see everybody, Hollywood, the music industry, all lining up, and they're just going with it, and they try to attack and bully us, that's a warning sign. Broad is the way. Broad is the way. Wake up. Don't fall for it again.
Dear white people, I need you to shut the fuck up and listen for a minute, because I am exhausted by how many conversations around race never actually become conversations. They become interruptions, objections. They become a courtroom where so many of you immediately begin defending yourselves against an accusation I haven't even made yet. And by the time you finish proving to yourself that you're one of the good ones, you've completely missed what black people were trying to tell you in the first place. One of the things that continues to frustrate me is how difficult it seems to be for people to distinguish between talking about individuals and talking about systems. I've spent years writing about capitalism, patriarchy, narcissistic family systems, institutions, religion, and power. And almost every single time I'm talking about a system, somebody insists on dragging the conversation back down to whether one individual person is good or bad, as though that somehow disproves the larger pattern. It doesn't. Systems don't become systems because every individual inside them behaves identically. They become systems because they create incentives, expectations, protections, and consequences that extend beyond any one person. That's what I mean when I talk about whiteness. I'm talking about the construct, the culture, the collective behaviors that have accumulated over centuries, not because every white person shares the same heart or intentions, but because history has shown us that communities often reveal themselves less by how they treat the vulnerable when it's easy, and more by what they're willing to risk when protecting the vulnerable becomes socially expensive. The conversation around Nolan Wells is a perfect example of why so many black people arrive at conclusions that seem extreme to people who haven't lived our experience. When I hear black people say they don't want to be alone around white people, I don't hear irrational paranoia. I hear pattern recognition. I hear generations of people trying to explain what it feels like to navigate spaces where the greatest uncertainty isn't always whether one individual intends harm, but whether anyone else will meaningfully intervene if harm does occur. That distinction matters to me because I've spent a significant portion of my life in predominantly white spaces. I grew up playing soccer, I grew up swimming, I've worked in corporate America, I've had white friends, white mentors, white colleagues, people I've loved, and people who've loved me. My life has never been built around avoiding white people, which is exactly why I think my perspective is worth hearing before it's dismissed. My observations didn't come from standing outside looking in. They came from spending decades inside those environments, paying attention to what happened when race entered the room, what happened when someone said something inappropriate, what happened when someone black was treated differently, and perhaps most importantly, what happened after. What I kept seeing wasn't necessarily large acts of overt racism. Sometimes it was just silence. It was discomfort. It was a quick change of subject. Sometimes it was people deciding that preserving harmony inside the group mattered more than confronting whatever had just happened. Those moments accumulate. They teach you that safety isn't only about whether that person in front of you intends to do harm. It's also about whether the people standing around them are willing to absorb any personal cost to stop it. I've realized over the last few years that this isn't actually unique to race. Once I started thinking more deeply about systems, I began seeing the same dynamic everywhere. Corporations protect themselves before they protect employees. Political parties protect themselves before they protect constituents. Churches often protect themselves before protecting victims. Families sometimes protect the image of the family before they protect the person who's been harmed. Communities in general have an extraordinary ability to convince themselves that maintaining internal cohesion is more important than confronting uncomfortable truths. And whenever that happens, the people with the least power are usually the ones asked to absorb the consequences. That's the lens which I understand whiteness, not as biological category, but as an accusation that every white person is individually malicious, as a structure that has historically rewarded belonging, conformity, and silence in ways that have often left black people carrying risks that many white people never have to think about. So when some white people hear me say that I don't automatically experience white spaces as safe, and their first instinct is to respond, well, I would never do that, I understand why they feel compelled to say it. But I also think it's the wrong first question. I'm not trying to audit your personal morality. I'm asking something much bigger than that. I'm asking whether the communities you belong to consistently make black people safer, whether you've ever challenged those communities when it cost you something, whether you've ever been willing to risk your own acceptance in order to protect someone else's humanity. Because those are the moments that tell me far more than any declarations of innocence ever will. Maybe that's why so many of these conversations feel like they're happening on parallel tracks. Black people are often talking about accumulated experience, historical memory, and collective patterns, while many white people immediately hear an accusation about their individual character. Those aren't the same conversation, and until we can separate them, we'll continue talking past each other. I'm not asking anyone to accept every conclusion I come to without questioning it. I'm asking for something much simpler than that. before you defend yourself, before you explain why you're different, before you tell me about your friends, your family, or your intentions, spend a little time sitting with the possibility that the people describing these experiences may have learned something from living them that you can never fully understand from observing them. You don't have to surrender your judgment to listen, but you do have to stop centering yourself long enough to hear what is actually being said. Because if every conversation about black people's experiences begins with reassuring white people that they're not being personally attacked, then we're never actually talking about the experience anymore. We're talking about your comfort. And that's exactly the pattern many of us have been trying to describe all along.
I was degraded. I was deemed as unhumane for the things that you sent me through just because I wanted to learn the American literacy. The dream that we all sit here fighting for in 2026 for every child to have equal rights inside of a school system. You're talking about the ones where I pay tuition for my child to go to school at, and I'm still deemed as not enough. You're talking about the ones where certain curriculums you leave out on my child. No learning how to balance a checkbook. No learning how to be an entrepreneur. No learning how to build your American dream up or whatever it is. Instead, you turned us into a corporate businessman. I sit here and work my ass off to the bone to get a college degree, and it still ain't enough, and I'm still deemed as overqualified on a job application. Dear white people, what have we done to you? Don't give me no BS story talking about y'all ain't did nothing. You sat there and went inside of a house and killed my African-American auntie, my sister, my mother, over boiling hot water. And in the meantime, you sitting there walking close to her and she sits there and say, the blood of Jesus. Apparently, the same man that you sit here claiming you worship, you adore, you identify, you love so much. You talking about the one whose hair is like wool, eyes like fire. It still wasn't enough, so dear white people, what have we done to you? You talking about the one with Carmelo Anthony. He sat there and defended himself against Caucasian bullies who wasn't even supposed to be at a track meet. You sat there and tampered with me. You tarried with me. But because also you sat there and painted him as a murderer inside of news media, you forgot the fact that he also sat there and saved a Caucasian baby from drowning. Dear white people, what have we done to you? Talking about Nolan, who went out on the lake with Caucasian friends and never came home. But a phone came home. No explanation. You want to give this sad, sob-ass story as a judge. Dear white people, what have we done to you? Trayvon Martin walking with a pack of Skittles and an Arizona tea. Deemed as a threat with a hood on. Dear white people, what have we done to you? We're fighting. We're not against you. But for some reason, it still ain't enough. My mom taught me that type of tactic, but you still sitting there with your asinine ass, ain't got the audacity to sit there and do your research and see we was never the problem, but now you sitting here stealing my culture, calling it your culture. You never knew anything about a cornroll until we sat there and was finding our way to...
Do you guys know that the UK's top military chief has just dropped a chilling warning to us? So the Airfield Marshal, Sir Richard Knighton, he says, and quote, that the world is more dangerous now than I have ever seen in my career. Here's the part that's causing buzzing. He clearly says, sons, daughters, veterans, ordinary citizens will have a huge role to play. They will have to build, support, serve, and if necessary, fight. He's not asking kids to pick up rifles straight away. But honestly, the warning is very clear. He's not said that Russia is about to attack us, but what he has said is that there is a huge rising threat from Russia. He adds that it's unlikely, but there could be an attack. It's possible. Essentially, he says we can't take safety for granted anymore. We have to stay on high alert, be warned, and be prepared. What do you guys think? Is this imminent? Should we be worried? Or is it time now to jump ship?
You know, it's always good when a white man says that the problem with this country is white men.
The biggest threat to America is white men that look like you, me, you, all these cops here, and something...
I love that, because it takes a white man to tell white men that they're a problem to this country. You know what I'm saying? With the killing of the Native Americans, slavery, stealing land, all kinds of The problem is white men. Now, I'm not saying it. This guy in this video is saying it.
We have been so deeply beaten with propaganda that we are the greatest country in the world. We have always been this way, imperialistic, genocidal.
Consider him an ally. You gotta consider him an ally. I like that. And then while he's doing it, they're all trying to interrupt him.
Why are you interrupting me? I'm still talking.
He's like, hey man, I gave you a chance to speak. He's trying to speak. They're interrupting him. And the board is a bunch of saps, and I think one of them looks like a black dude that's like I don't know, one of them coons. But yo, my man, got to give you credit, man. All right? There you go. That's what white power is. Not that other white power, but that's the white power. The white power, the power to actually speak the truth. Right on.
Don't tell me what I can and can't say. I can say what I need to say as freedom of speech, okay?
It's protecting speech.
That's fine. I'm glad that you think that it's funny. I'm glad you think that it's funny. The biggest threat to America is white men that look like you, me, you, all these cops here. And something, by the way, I don't even think it's worth talking to a lot of you, but I urge all the white people here, because a lot of people have said that you're surprised, you don't know what's happening, what's going on, because we have been so deeply beaten with propaganda that we are the greatest country in the world. We have always been this way, imperialistic, genocidal. I'm not looking at you, you're not special, okay? I'm not looking at you, I'm
Sir,
looking around.
stop. Let him have his time.
Right,
You had yours.
Thank you so much, I appreciate that. We've always been, shush. We've always been genocidal. We came to this land, we genocided the indigenous people. I don't want to look at you, I don't like looking at you. We genocided the indigenous people when we came here, we killed them.
Young man, you need to stop instead. If you already had your time, you can have a seat.
It's not, why are you interrupting me? I'm still talking.
If you want to finish your time, finish your time.
Are you threatening me? Like,
you're getting close. Finish up.
I'm not, nobody's throwing me out, nobody's touching me.
If you live in the United States and you have the ability to leave this country, you need to drop everything immediately, get your family together, and leave the United States. This country is about to explode. The racial tensions, the gasoline running out, there will not be any transportation of goods. There will not be any trucking delivering food to grocery stores. The government is going to lock the United States down, and people are going to be killing each other, fighting over canned goods and macaroni and cheese. Please, if you have the means.
So, former ICE agents are warning people and are telling people that this is only the beginning and things are bound to get worse. Basically saying that the worst is yet to come. And as we know, a couple of weeks ago, Trump and the Republicans approved this plan where they funded ICE with more money so they could hire anybody. And ICE agents say that they're afraid that this could happen because they could be hiring just anybody that, is full of hatred and could just do things, could just join just to hurt people. And it's scary because there's a lot of people now in this world that are full of hatred and are only looking to hurt people. Like we've seen how these ICE agents and bounty hunters that are treating people like crap, throwing them on the floor, dragging them, hitting them. It's some scary times we're living in, but let me know your guys' opinion on this. And if I find out more news about this, I'll let you guys know. And follow me on Instagram. I'll leave it right here so you guys could keep updated with me on there too.
Welcome back. Now, after watching the video all the way to the end, listening to everything these guys had to share, what exactly are we looking at here? Now, this conversation goes far deeper than politics, the way I noted it. It goes into race, it goes into history, it goes into fear, it goes into hatred, and the consequences of choices made when those tensions, or emotions take over. Now, while I was watching the video, I came across, some key messages, some key points that we really need to base our discussion on as we are breaking down this story, as we are breaking down what these people had to share with us. factors. Firstly, there is America's history of violence against black people. You see, slavery, the treatment of Native Americans, stolen land, segregation, and the racial violence continue to shape how many Americans understand race today. You see, for many black Americans, you cannot understand today's racial tensions without being honest, okay? Without being realistic about yesterday's violence, okay? Because it's where everything is coming from. Whenever black people relate everything to what happened, relate everything and say this is racism, they're not just seeing racism just at that point. No, they're able to study patterns. They're able to see what happened in the past and see, no, when this thing happens, then something is wrong. Now, secondly, there is an issue of ignored warnings, okay, or dismissed warnings. You see, for generations, for a long period of time, for many years, black Americans have raised concerns about discrimination. They have tried to raise concerns about stereotypes. They have tried all the best to raise concerns about unequal treatment, and then concerns about violence. But what happens when warnings are dismissed? Because people do not want to hear them. What happens when concerns are pushed aside, like they are ignored, until consequences, become impossible to ignore? That is where this conversation becomes so uncomfortable to some of the people who don't want to be confronted when it comes to their racist behaviors. It's always good to look at the past. It's always good to be confronted whenever these things are happening. So at the end of the day, the society can be okay. Now, thirdly, racism does not always look like somebody trying to openly saying, I hate black people. Yes, there will be some white people who can openly say that. Some people will not openly say it with their mouth. Others can say it just by their actions. Sometimes it can appear through assumptions. Sometimes it can appear through stereotypes. It can also appear through, through fear, or believing a group should be treated differently. Like you look at black people and then you say, oh, these people don't really matter. Oh, these people don't need reparations. Oh, these people, they're asking for too much. Okay, you don't want fair treatment. You don't want equal opportunities with them. You want to be somewhere at the top and you want those people to be somewhere at the bottom. That's other kind of racism. You may not necessarily say I hate black people or say any racist statement or anything of that nature. Sometimes the assumptions can really tell whether you are a racist or you are not, and that matters because the choices can be influenced by those attitudes, even when people never admit race played a role. So that's why black people will mostly, when they are judging things, they will judge it considering all these things, not because it happened, but they look beyond this and they can come to a conclusion that, okay, this is racism, or maybe this is wrong, this is not racism. And the other thing, this video also shows how quickly racial suspicion can turn ordinary situations into chaos, into conflict. What do I mean? You see, even walking past another person can become a racial confrontation when people interpret each other through the race of through the lens of the race. Okay, like, why you look at me so much like that? Is it because I'm black? Is it because I'm white? Or why after you look at me you look aside? Is it because I'm black? Is it because... So it depends on how people interpret this. But now that is the danger. When people see another group and like as the enemy, they see it as they have seen an enemy. Ordinary interactions can become battles. Hatred can become easier to justify. There's somebody within the video, if not in the comments, pointed out this, that okay, sometimes it's hard to tell whether this one was intending to be racist or was not intending to be racist. Finally, there is the question of the results, the negative results or consequences, let's put it that way. You see, choices that can be made through racism, through hatred, through fear or stereotypes can affect more than those people who made the choices. They can affect families. They can affect communities, regardless of which community it is. They can affect workplaces, politics, and the entire country all together. And this is where the video connects everything all together. Okay, it's not that when you make a choice then it's gonna be like only you to be affected. No, more people can also be affected. And there are warnings about racial violence, warnings about division, warnings about political conflict, and warnings about what can happen when people stop listening to one another. But there is another warning which is also worth considering. We really need to take it seriously. When racial suspicion becomes so strong that people automatically assume the worst about a certain group, that can create another cycle of hatred. And that cycle does not solve anything. It doesn't solve, it doesn't bring people together. It doesn't bring, unity. It simply creates another reason for people to fear each other, for people to hate each other. Now, think about it for a moment. What happens when the Americans stop judging people by their actions and start judging them by like the group they belong to? What happens when political decisions are influenced or are made by resentment towards black people or white people or immigrants or any other group? What happens when people ignore warnings, dismiss them because they come from a group of distrust, like it comes from a group of black people just because they hate them? That is where choices made from racism, hatred, and stereotypes become extremely dangerous to individuals, dangerous to the society, dangerous to even the entire community. Because once people make decisions based on group, individual character can disappear from the conversation. Instead of looking at each other by the capabilities, okay, regardless of who you are, what are you capable of? Okay, so then people can begin to defend choices they might never have made without these prejudices. So anyway, I think the bigger lesson in this video is not who is right or who is wrong. Okay, who must do what, who must not do what, who must believe that or what. No, I think it's about what happens when hatred becomes stronger than understanding, when your stereotypes becomes stronger than evidence, when fear is something that becomes so strong than the reason. America has a complicated racial history, and this video shows those wounds are still being debated today. The question is, will Americans continue allowing those wounds to divide them, to continue getting bigger and bigger, becoming worse and worse? Or will they confront the past without allowing hatred to determine the future? Because ultimately, the choices made today will help to shape what happens tomorrow or what comes tomorrow. So I don't know what your take is, but I think that's how we can discuss about this. If this is your first time, please kindly subscribe, or if you got some value in the video, please don't forget to share it. Don't forget to give it a like. I'll greatly appreciate. Otherwise, see you next time, and I'm proud of